The smell hit me first. Takeout Chinese. Not the soul food I'd spent 20 years cooking in that kitchen, not the collard greens simmering on the stove or the cornbread cooling on the counter. No, this was the greasy, careless smell of people who didn't belong. My back ached from a 12-hour shift at the hospital. I'd lifted a 300-pound patient that morning, my scrubs still damp with sweat and disinfectant. All I wanted was to sink into my couch, kick off these shoes that felt like they were cutting into my bones, and close my eyes for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of peace in the house I'd built. But the universe had other plans. I froze in the doorway of my living room. There she was, sprawled across my couch like a queen on her throne, blonde hair cascading over the cushions I'd saved 3 months to buy, her legs crossed, bare feet on the coffee table my grandmother gave me, and in her hand, my favorite wine glass, the one with the delicate stem that I only used on special occasions. She was wearing a dress that barely covered anything, sipping wine like she owned the place, and beside her, Michael, my husband of 20 years, his arm draped around her shoulders, his laugh, the one that used to make my heart flutter, now making my stomach turn. What the hell is this? My voice cut through the air like a blade. They both turned. Michael's face went pale, the color draining so fast I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But her? Ashley, the 28-year-old secretary who'd been just a friend, looked me up and down with a smirk that made my blood boil. "Oh, you're the ex," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Michael said you'd drop by to pick up some stuff. Didn't expect you so soon." The ex? Those 2 words hit me like a slap across the face. Like every sleepless night I'd spent worrying about him. Like every double shift I'd worked to put him through law school. Like every sacrifice I'd made raising our 2 kids while he climbed the corporate ladder meant nothing. As a Black woman, I'd faced invisibility my whole life. Overlooked for promotions, followed in stores, dismissed in rooms where I was the only one who looked like me. But this, being erased in my own home, that was a bridge too far. "Listen, honey," Ashley continued, crossing her legs tighter. "He's moved on. This is our home now. You should go before it gets awkward." Our home? Something shifted in my chest. Not sadness, not even shock anymore. It was something colder, harder. The kind of rage that burns so hot it turns to ice. Michael stammered something, some pathetic excuse I didn't bother listening to, because in that moment I remembered something Michael had conveniently forgotten, something he'd never bothered to tell his little girlfriend. I turned on my heel and walked straight to the study. My hands were steady as I opened the safe, and there it was, the document that would change everything. But they didn't know that yet. If you want to see what happened next, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Trust me, you won't want to miss what I did. Hit that subscribe button right now. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began, back when I still believed in fairy tales. I met Michael in the fall of 1995 at Georgia State University. I was a 22-year-old nursing student with dreams bigger than my bank account, and he was the charming pre-law major who somehow made studying torts sound romantic. The first time he approached me in the library, I was buried in anatomy textbooks. My natural hair pulled back in a headband, completely focused on memorizing the bones of the hand. "You look like you could use some coffee," he said, flashing that smile, the one that would later become a weapon. I looked up, surprised. A tall white guy with sandy brown hair and green eyes holding 2 cups from the campus cafe. In Atlanta in 1995, interracial couples weren't exactly rare, but they weren't common either. People stared. They whispered. His fraternity brothers made comments. My sorority sisters questioned my choices. But we didn't care. Or at least, I thought we didn't. We fell hard and fast. Late-night study sessions that turned into breakfast dates. Walking hand in hand across campus while people's eyes followed us like tracking beams. His parents were cold during our first meeting. Polite but distant. The kind of civility that cuts deeper than outright hostility. My father pulled me aside and asked, Baby girl, you sure about this? But love makes you deaf to warnings. We graduated in the spring of 1997 and got married that August. Small ceremony, smaller reception. His side of the church was half empty. Mine was packed with aunties in elaborate hats, giving Michael the once-over, their eyes asking the questions their mouths wouldn't. The night before the wedding, my grandmother, Mama Ruth, pulled me into her bedroom. She was 83 years old, with hands weathered from decades of domestic work in white people's homes and eyes that had seen too much. "Patricia, baby," she said, pressing an envelope into my hands. "This is for you, $20,000, my life savings." I tried to protest, but she held up her hand. "Listen to me now. You use this for something that's yours, not his, not y'all's, yours. Always have your own, you hear me? My mama told me that, her mama told her. Black women don't get second chances like other folks. You need a foundation nobody can take from you." I promised. I didn't fully understand then, but I promised. 3 months after the wedding, we found a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb outside Atlanta. Michael wanted both our names on the deed. "We're married," he said. "What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine." But Mama Ruth's voice echoed in my head. "Always have your own." "Baby," I said carefully, "let's keep it in my name for now, for tax purposes." It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. Michael shrugged, too focused on LSAT prep to care about paperwork. The deed went in my name only. Patricia Marie Johnson. That house became my fortress. I painted every wall, planted flowers in the garden, made it home. And then I made the sacrifices. Michael needed to focus on law school, he said. The workload was brutal. So I picked up double shifts at Grady Memorial Hospital. 6 days a week, sometimes 7. My feet ached. My back screamed. I came home smelling like bleach and desperation, only to cook dinner, do laundry, and quiz Michael on constitutional law. "You're amazing, Pat," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "I couldn't do this without you." I believed him. In 1999, Jamal was born. A beautiful baby boy with his father's green eyes and my rich brown skin. 2 years later, Keisha arrived, all sass and spirit from day one. I juggled motherhood, marriage, and those relentless hospital shifts. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Michael graduated law school in 2001, passed the bar on his first try, got hired at Henderson and Associates, a prestigious downtown firm. I was so proud I cried at his swearing-in ceremony. "We made it, baby," he whispered, holding my hand. "All those sacrifices paid off." "Our sacrifices," he said, but I knew the truth. I had carried us. Still, I didn't mind. That's what love looked like, I thought. That's what a good wife did. You lift your man up and he lifts you back, right? The years blurred together, PTA meetings and mortgage payments, Jamal's baseball games and Keisha's dance recitals. I took fewer shifts as Michael's salary grew, finally able to breathe. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. The American dream, wrapped in a house my grandmother's love had built. I thought we were happy. God, I was so blind. The changes started small, so small I almost missed them. It was 2008. Michael had been at the firm for 7 years, climbing the ladder with the kind of ambition that left bruises. He made junior partner, which meant longer hours, bigger cases, more pressure, and more excuses. "I've got a deposition running late." Client dinner downtown. "Have to review discovery documents." At first I believed him. Law is demanding. I knew that. But then came the other signs. The ones that made my stomach clench even when I tried to ignore them. New cologne, something expensive and musky that made my nose wrinkle. When I asked about it, he said a client gave it to him as a gift. "Smells good on you," I lied. Late-night texts that made his phone buzz incessantly during dinner. He'd glance at the screen, smile slightly, then put it face down on the table. "Work," he'd mutter. Receipts in his pockets for restaurants I'd never been to. Hotels in neighborhoods we'd never visited. When I asked about them, he had explanations ready, too ready. The distance between us grew like a canyon. In bed, he turned away. At the dinner table, he was present but absent, his mind somewhere I couldn't reach. The man who used to hold my hand during movies now scrolled through his phone, the blue light reflecting off his face like a stranger's mask. The kids noticed, too. Jamal, 16 at the time, started acting out. His grades slipped from A's to C's. He stopped talking to Michael entirely, responding in grunts and shrugs. One night he asked me, "Mom, are you and Dad okay?" "Of course, baby," I lied, smoothing his hair. "Why would you ask that?" "Because he's never here, and when he is, you guys don't even look at each other." Out of the mouths of babes. Keisha, 14 and painfully perceptive, withdrew into herself. She stopped dancing, stopped laughing, spent hours in her room with the door closed, and when I knocked, she'd say she was fine, in a voice that clearly meant she wasn't. I tried to talk to Michael about it, about us, about the family that was crumbling. "You're overreacting," he said, not looking up from his laptop. "I'm working hard for this family, for you, for the kids. Can't you just be supportive?" Supportive? I'd been supportive for 13 years. What did he think those double shifts were? What did he think raising his children while he built his career was? But I swallowed the anger, pushed it down deep where Black women learn to hide their pain, because exploding wouldn't fix anything. It never did. Then came the lipstick stain. February 2009, Valentine's Day, ironically. Michael came home at midnight reeking of wine. I was waiting up, a cold dinner on the table, wearing a red dress I'd bought special. "Sorry, babe," he mumbled, loosening his tie. "Client celebration ran long." As he walked past me, I saw it, a smudge of coral lipstick on his collar, bright and damning as blood. My heart stopped, then started again, pounding so hard I thought he could hear it. "What's that?" I pointed. He glanced down, and for a split second, just 1 second, panic flashed across his face. Then he smoothed it away. Must have been Karen from accounting. She's a hugger. You know how white women are at office parties. The excuse was so casual, so practiced. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But that night, while he snored beside me, I grabbed his phone. I knew his passcode, our anniversary. How naive. I found them. Texts to someone named A. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. She doesn't understand me like you do." She, me, Patricia, the wife, the woman who'd given everything. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the phone. Tears blurred my vision, but I kept reading. Months of messages. Flirtations that escalated to plans, hotels, lies, a whole secret life I knew nothing about. Ashley. Her name was Ashley. I confronted him the next morning, threw the phone at his chest while he was brushing his teeth. "Who's Ashley?" The toothbrush clattered into the sink. He stared at me, foam dripping from his mouth, and I watched him calculate, deny or confess. Which lie would work best? "Pat, Don't, just don't." He broke down, crying. Actual tears. Said it was a mistake. Said she meant nothing. Said he loved me, only me, that he'd end it immediately. "Please," he begged, "don't throw away everything we built." Everything we built? I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood there, numb, watching the man I'd sacrificed 20 years for beg for mercy he didn't deserve. And like a fool, like a woman who'd invested too much to walk away, I nodded. "End it," I said coldly, "or I'm done." He promised, swore on our children, on our marriage. I believed him. Biggest mistake of my life. The counseling session started in March. Dr. Beverly Price, a 50-something Black woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Her office smelled like lavender and disappointment, probably from all the broken marriages that had sat on that beige couch before us. "Patricia, tell me how you're feeling," Dr. Price said during our first session. I glanced at Michael. He sat rigid, hands clasped, the picture of remorse. "I feel betrayed," I said carefully. Invisible, like I gave everything and it wasn't enough. It wasn't about you not being enough, Michael interrupted. It was me, my weakness. I take full responsibility. Dr. Price raised an eyebrow. Do you? The sessions continued weekly. Michael said the right things, apologized profusely, talked about his fears of inadequacy and the pressure to succeed. I sat there listening to him reframe his cheating as some sort of existential crisis, rather than what it was, selfishness. But here's the thing about counseling. It only works if both people are honest. Michael was lying. I didn't know it then. I wanted to believe he'd ended it. Wanted to believe our family was worth fighting for. The kids needed their father. I needed to believe I hadn't wasted 20 years on a man who'd throw me away for someone younger, blonder, and less complicated. At night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering, was it me? Was I not attractive enough anymore? My body had changed after 2 pregnancies. Stretch marks silvered my stomach. My breasts weren't as firm. My hair was natural now, coily and free, after years of straightening it to fit into his world. Was it my blackness that he'd grown tired of? The interracial marriage that had been exciting in college, but burdensome in reality? Did Ashley represent something easier? A woman who'd never make him think about race, never challenge him to examine his privilege? These thoughts ate at me like acid. Dr. Price sensed my struggle. During one solo session, she saw us separately sometimes, she asked, "Patricia, do you think this has anything to do with race?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Black women are taught to be strong," I said quietly, "to carry everyone, to never complain, and when we're partnered with white men, there's this extra pressure to be perfect, to prove we're worthy, to never be the angry black woman." I bent myself into shapes to make him comfortable, and it still wasn't enough. Dr. Price leaned forward. "You know that's his failure, not yours, right?" Did I? I wasn't sure. April turned to May. May turned to June. Summer arrived, humid and suffocating. The facade held. Michael came home earlier, brought flowers sometimes, said, "I love you," with what seemed like genuine emotion. We had sex again. Awkward, performative, both of us trying too hard. The kids relaxed slightly. Jamal's grades improved. Keisha smiled more often. I wanted to believe we'd turned a corner. I was such a fool. That Friday in early August, I picked up an extra shift. A colleague called in sick, and I owed her a favor. I wasn't supposed to be home until 9 p.m. But the shift ended early. A miracle, really. I texted Michael to let him know, but he didn't respond. No big deal. He was probably in a meeting. I drove home through the sticky Atlanta heat, windows down, letting Aretha Franklin's voice wash over me. Respect played on the radio, and I sang along, feeling almost optimistic. Maybe we'd have a nice evening. Maybe I'd cook something special. The driveway was empty. Michael's car wasn't there. Odd. It was 6 p.m. on a Friday. He usually beat me home on casual nights. I unlocked the door. That smell. Chinese takeout. And underneath it, perfume. Cloying and synthetic. Not mine. Laughter drifted from the living room. A woman's giggle. Michael's low chuckle. My stomach dropped. I walked toward the sound, each step feeling like moving through water. Time slowed. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. And there it was. The scene that would change everything. Ashley, on my couch, in my house, her legs crossed, feet bare and disrespectful on my coffee table, a dress so short it was practically a shirt, and my wine glass, my favorite crystal glass, in her hand, filled with red wine I'd been saving. Michael beside her, arm around her shoulders, comfortable, intimate. Like this was normal, like she belonged there. They turned when they heard me. His face went white. Deer in headlights panic. But her? Ashley looked me up and down with a smirk that made my blood boil. "Oh, you're the ex," she said dismissively, waving her hand like I was an annoying interruption. "Michael said you'd drop by to pick up some stuff. Didn't expect you so soon." The ex 20 years of marriage, 2 children, every sacrifice I'd made, erased with 2 casual words. "Listen, honey," she continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "He's moved on. This is our home now. You should go before it gets awkward." Something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped, like a rubber band stretched too far, and I walked straight to the study to get that deed. I didn't say a word. That's what they don't tell you about rage. Real rage, the kind that's been building for years, compounded by every sacrifice, every lie, every dismissal, doesn't explode. It freezes. It calcifies into something cold and precise. I turned on my heel, my work shoes squeaking against the hardwood floor I'd mopped 1,000 times. Behind me, I heard Michael scramble to his feet. "Pat, wait!" I held up one hand without looking back, the universal sign for shut the hell up, and remarkably, he did. The study was at the end of the hall. My sanctuary. Walls lined with medical textbooks and family photos, photos that now felt like lies. My nursing certifications hung in frames, evidence of everything I'd built while he was out building a relationship with a 28-year-old child. The safe sat behind a painting of magnolias, Mama Ruth's favorite flower. I'd hung it there deliberately, her spirit guarding what was mine. My hands didn't shake as I punched in the code, 0815, August 15th. Her birthday, not our anniversary. The metal door swung open with a soft click. Inside, organized in folders, birth certificates for Jamal and Keisha, my nursing license, our marriage certificate, how ironic, insurance documents, and there, in a manila envelope marked house in my careful handwriting, the deed. I pulled it out. The paper was thick, official, stamped, and notarized. I'd looked at it 100 times over the years, always feeling a quiet pride. Mama Ruth's voice echoing, "Always have your own." She'd known. Somehow, she'd known. I walked back down that hallway like a soldier marching to war, each step deliberate, purposeful. I could hear them in the living room, Michael's frantic whispers, Ashley's annoyed responses. "Told you she wasn't supposed to be here until 9. Need to leave, this is getting messy." "Just calm down, I'll handle it." Handle it? Handle me? I rounded the corner. They both looked up. Michael had moved away from Ashley now, standing in the middle of the room like he was trying to create distance from his crime. Ashley remained on the couch, though she'd put down the wine glass, some survival instinct finally kicking in. "Read this," I said, my voice flat and cold as December. I walked straight to Ashley and shoved the papers into her hands. She fumbled them, surprised by the force. "What is—" "Read it!" She blinked, then looked down. Her eyes scanned the first page. I watched her face carefully, savoring every micro-expression. Confusion first, her brow furrowed, then comprehension. Her eyes widened slightly, then horror. "This says—" She looked up at Michael, then back at the deed. "The house is in your name only?" "That's right," I said, crossing my arms. My voice was ice wrapped in steel. "Sole ownership, Patricia Marie Johnson. No Michael, no joint tenancy. Just me." Ashley's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "But—" Michael said. "What did Michael say?" I asked, leaning forward slightly. "That he was divorced? That this was his house? That you could just waltz in here and play housewife?" She stood up quickly, the papers falling to the floor. "He told me you two were separated, that the divorce was almost final, that you'd moved out." I laughed, actually laughed. It came out harsh and bitter, scraping my throat on the way out. "Separated? I've been at work, supporting this household, supporting him." I jabbed a finger toward Michael, who looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. "This house? My grandmother's inheritance paid the down payment. My name went on that deed because I had the wisdom, passed down from generations of Black women who learned not to give everything away, to protect myself." "Pat, please," Michael started. "Don't." The word came out like a gunshot. "Don't you dare try to explain this away. Not this time." Ashley's face had gone from smug to panicked. She grabbed her purse from the couch, hands shaking. "Michael, you lied to me. You said, I know what I said," he snapped, then caught himself, his lawyer training kicking in. "Look, it's complicated." "It's not complicated," I interrupted. "It's simple. You're a liar. You've been lying to her, lying to me, lying to our children. This house, my house, the one I worked double shifts to maintain while you were in law school, the one I kept pristine while juggling 2 babies and a full-time job, the one with my name, and only my name, on the deed." I bent down and picked up the papers, holding them up like evidence in a trial. "You see this?" I addressed Ashley directly now. "This is what he didn't tell you. This is what he forgot to mention when he was spinning his sob story about his ex-wife. I'm not his ex, I'm his wife. Legal, official, still on the marriage certificate wife. And this house? You have no claim to it. He has no claim to it. It's mine." Ashley's eyes filled with tears. Not sad tears, angry ones. She whirled on Michael. "You son of a—" She bit off the curse. "You told me we could move in together. You said this place was yours. I turned down an apartment for this. Baby, just let me explain." Michael reached for her. She slapped his hand away. "Don't touch me. I can't believe I—" She stopped, looking between us, the reality settling in. She'd been sleeping with a married man. She'd been the other woman, and she hadn't even known. Or maybe she had. Maybe she just hadn't cared until it affected her. The front door burst open. "Mom!" Jamal stood in the doorway, basketball in hand, sweat still on his brow from practice. Behind him, Keisha appeared, earbuds around her neck, her face curious. They both froze, taking in the scene. Me, holding papers, face hard as stone, their father, pale and guilty, and a blonde woman in a too-short dress who clearly didn't belong. "What's going on?" Jamal asked slowly, his voice dropping an octave. At 18, he was nearly as tall as Michael now, broader in the shoulders from varsity sports. Keisha's eyes went straight to Ashley, then to her father. She'd always been the smart one. "Dad?" Her voice was small, wounded. "Who is that?" The silence stretched, like taffy. Ashley grabbed her purse and bolted for the door, pushing past Jamal and Keisha without a word. Her heels clicked frantically down the driveway. Seconds later, a car door slammed, an engine roared to life, and she was gone. Good riddance. Jamal set his basketball down carefully. "Mom?" I took a deep breath, forcing my voice steady. "Come sit down, babies. Your father and I need to talk to you about something." "Don't do this," Michael said quietly. "Not now. Not like this." "You don't get to decide that anymore," I replied, my eyes never leaving my children's faces. "You lost that right when you brought your girlfriend into our home." Keisha's hand flew to her mouth. "Girlfriend?" They sat on the couch, the same couch Ashley had been lounging on minutes ago, and looked at me with those wide, trusting eyes, the same eyes that had looked at me when they were babies, believing I could fix anything. But I couldn't fix this. I could only tell them the truth. "Your father has been having an affair," I said simply. No sugarcoating. They were old enough. That woman was her. He told her we were divorced. He told her this was his house. He lied to her, just like he's been lying to me. To us. Jamal's jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists. "How long?" "At least since last year," I said. "Probably longer." "Mom?" Keisha's voice cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I moved to her immediately, pulling her into my arms. She was 16, nearly grown, but in that moment she was my little girl again. Jamal stood up abruptly, facing his father. "Get out!" Michael stepped forward. "Son, I know you're upset, but—" I said, "Get out!" Jamal's voice boomed through the house. "You don't get to do this to Mom, not after everything she's done for you, for us. Jamal, please, did you hear me? Get out!" I'd never heard that tone from my son before. It was protective, fierce, a man defending his mother. Michael looked at me, desperation in his eyes. "Pat, tell him—" "He's right," I said quietly. "You need to leave. Now. This is my house, too." The audacity. The sheer, unbelievable audacity. I held up the deed still in my hand. No, Michael, it's not. It never was. You've been living in my house, under my roof, eating food I bought with my money while you spent yours on hotels and jewelry for your mistress. His face crumpled. Real tears now. I made a mistake. I'll end it. I'll do anything. Just don't... You already said that, I interrupted. In February, remember? You cried then, too, promised it was over. And yet, here we are. Keisha pulled away from me, wiping her eyes. You promised, Dad. You promised you'd stop and you didn't? The betrayal in her voice cut through the room. Michael opened his mouth, closed it. What could he possibly say? Pack a bag, I told him. You've got 15 minutes. Then I want you out. He stood there, paralyzed. Jamal moved toward him, and Michael flinched. My son wasn't violent, but the message was clear. Comply or be removed. Michael climbed the stairs like a condemned man. We heard him in the bedroom, drawers opening, closet doors sliding, the sounds of a life being dismantled in minutes. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts, found the name I needed, Denise Walker, my former classmate from nursing school who'd gone to law school instead. We'd stayed friends over the years, bonding over wine and war stories. She'd been through her own divorce 3 years ago. Her husband had left her for a man. If anyone understood, it was Denise. I hit call. She answered on the second ring. Patricia? Girl, it's late. Everything okay? No, I said, my voice finally breaking. No, it's not. I need a lawyer, Denise. A good one. The best. What happened? I'll tell you everything. But right now, I just need to know. Can you help me? You know I can. Are you safe? Are the kids safe? Yes. He's packing now. I'm throwing him out. Good. Don't let him take anything that's yours. Document everything. Take photos. And call me first thing tomorrow morning. We'll meet at my office. Thank you, I whispered. That's what sisters are for. Michael came down with one suitcase. His eyes were red, face blotchy. He looked at the kids, who both turned away. Looked at me. Pat, save it, I said. My lawyer will be in touch. He left without another word. The door closed, and I broke, sank to the floor, sobbing. Not dainty tears, ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal. 20 years, 2 children, a lifetime of sacrifices, gone. Jamal and Keisha surrounded me, their arms wrapping around my shaking shoulders. We sat there on the floor of my house crying together, 3 hearts broken by one man's selfishness. But even through the pain, through the devastation, I felt something else. Relief. Saturday morning arrived with cruel sunshine. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ashley's smirk, heard her calling me the ex, felt the weight of Michael's betrayal crushing my chest, but I dragged myself out of bed anyway, because that's what Black women do. We get up. We keep going, even when everything hurts. Denise's office was in Midtown, a sleek high-rise with glass walls and expensive furniture. She'd done well for herself, senior partner at Freeman and Associates, specializing in family law. When I walked into her corner office at 9 a.m. sharp, she had coffee waiting. Colombian roast, 2 sugars, splash of cream, she said, handing me the cup. Some things don't change. I took it gratefully, sinking into the leather chair across from her desk. Denise looked good. 51 years old, natural hair in elegant locks, wearing a navy power suit that screamed success. Her dark skin glowed with the kind of peace that comes after surviving hell and coming out stronger. Tell me everything, she said, pulling out a legal pad. So I did, started from the beginning. Mama Ruth's inheritance. The deed in my name only. Michael's law school years, my sacrifices, the first affair confession in February, the counseling sessions, and finally, Friday night. Ashley on my couch, calling me the ex, the deed revelation, the whole catastrophic implosion. Denise took notes, her expression growing more satisfied with each detail. Girl, she said when I finished, you've got him by the balls. Sorry, by the gonads. Despite everything, I smiled. That good? That good. Here's the situation. Georgia is an equitable distribution state, which means marital property gets divided fairly, not necessarily equally. But that house? Not marital property. It's your separate property. You bought it before the marriage with your own inheritance, deeds solely in your name, and you can prove it. He'll try to claim he contributed to mortgage payments, I said. Probably. But you've got records, right? Bank statements showing you paid the majority? Every single one. I keep meticulous records. That's my girl. What about his income? He makes good money now, about $185,000 a year. Denise whistled. And he was still stepping out? Men are truly idiots. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We file for divorce on grounds of adultery. Georgia still recognizes fault-based divorce, and trust me, judges don't look kindly on cheating spouses. She leaned forward, tapping her pen against the legal pad. We're going for primary custody. Jamal's 18, so he can choose, but Keisha's 16. Child support. Alimony if we can get it, though that's trickier since you're employed. And most importantly, we make sure that house stays yours and yours alone. What are his chances of getting anything? From the house? 0. From marital assets accumulated during the marriage? He'll get something. 401k, savings accounts, whatever you've built together. But Patricia, you've got the upper hand here. He committed adultery. He brought his mistress into the marital home. He lied to said mistress about being divorced. This is a lawyer's dream case. Relief flooded through me. When do we start? Yesterday. But officially, Monday. I'll draft the petition this weekend. You'll need to gather documentation, bank statements, mortgage records, that inheritance letter from your grandmother if you still have it, the deed, anything showing your separate contributions to the household. I have my grandmother's letter, I said. She wrote it when she gave me the money, said I should keep it for legal purposes. I thought she was being paranoid. She was being smart. Black women in her generation knew how to protect themselves. They had to. Denise's expression softened. You know what happened to me, right? With Marcus. I nodded. She'd told me over wine 2 years ago after her divorce finalized. Her husband of 15 years had come out as gay, left her for a man he'd been seeing for years. The betrayal had been different from mine, but the pain was the same. I thought I'd never recover, she continued. Thought I'd wasted 15 years on a lie. But you know what I learned? It wasn't wasted. I have my daughter, I have my career, I have myself. And Michael can't take any of that from you either. How do I... My voice cracked. How do I stop feeling like I wasn't enough? Because it wasn't about you being enough. It was about him being broken, damaged, selfish. You could have been Beyoncé and he still would have cheated. That's his character, not your value. Tears welled up, but I blinked them back. When will he be served? Monday afternoon. I'll have the papers delivered to his office. Maximum embarrassment. Let his colleagues see. A small, vicious smile crossed my face. Is that ethical? Completely. Service of process is public record. Not my fault if it happens during lunch hour when the whole office is around. We spent another hour going over details. Denise explained the divorce process, filing, response period, discovery, depositions, mediation, and if necessary, trial. She estimated 4 to 6 months for everything to finalize, assuming Michael didn't drag it out. One more thing, she said as I was leaving. Have you checked your joint accounts, credit cards, any shared finances? I froze. Not since Friday. Why? Check them today, immediately. Vengeful spouses often clean out accounts before filing. You need to document every penny and, if possible, move your half to a separate account. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, logging into our joint checking account. My heart sank. 3 withdrawals. Thursday night. The night before I'd come home early. $15,000, $10,000, $5,000, $30,000 total, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. He'd been preparing, planning. While I was working my shift at the hospital, he was securing his exit strategy. I called Denise immediately. He took $30,000 from our joint account. Thursday night. Son of a... She caught herself. Okay, screenshot everything. That's marital property theft. We'll use it. How much is left? $12,000. Transfer half to your personal account right now. $6,000. That's your right. And Patricia, this just made my job even easier. After I hung up, I sat there staring at the numbers on the screen. $30,000. How long had he been planning this? How long had he known? And more importantly, what else had he hidden? I was about to find out. Michael called 17 times on Sunday. I didn't answer. He texted 43 times. I didn't respond. He showed up at the house Monday morning. I didn't open the door. "Patricia, please," he shouted from the front yard. "We need to talk about this like adults." I watched him from the upstairs window. Jamal had already left for his part-time job. Keisha was at school. Just me and my soon-to-be ex-husband with a locked door between us. "I'm not leaving until you talk to me," he yelled. I called the police. "Ma'am, is there a threat?" the dispatcher asked. "My estranged husband is trespassing on my property and refusing to leave," I said calmly. "The house is in my name only. I've asked him to leave. He won't." The squad car arrived 12 minutes later. I watched from the window as 2 officers talked to Michael. His arms gestured wildly. They shook their heads. He pointed at the house. They shook their heads again. Then they escorted him to his car. Small victory number 1. He'd been staying with his friend Brad, a fellow lawyer and certified bachelor who lived in a 2-bedroom condo downtown. I learned this from Keisha, who'd reluctantly answered one of his calls. "He says he's sorry," she reported, her voice flat. "Says he wants to explain everything." "What did you tell him?" "That I needed time." She paused. "Mom, is it wrong that I don't want to see him?" "No, baby, it's not wrong. You feel what you feel." Jamal was less diplomatic. When Michael called him, he answered on speakerphone so I could hear. "Dad, I've got nothing to say to you." "Son, please." "You cheated on Mom. You brought that woman into our house. You lied to everyone. What's there to talk about?" "I made a mistake." "A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. This is a choice. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie. You chose to disrespect the woman who gave you everything. So no, I don't want to talk to you." Click. My son, the man I'd raised him to be. Monday at 2:47 p.m., Denise texted me, "Papers delivered." He did not take it well. I smiled for the first time in days. Tuesday, Michael's lawyer called Denise. Wednesday, the phone calls to me intensified. Thursday, he tried a different tactic. Guilt. The kids need their father, Pat. Don't do this to them. Don't tear this family apart. I'd finally answered just to tell him exactly what I thought. "I didn't tear this family apart, Michael. You did, when you stuck your dick in Ashley, when you brought her to my house, when you stole $30,000 from our account. That was all you. I was going to tell you about the money." "When? After you disappeared with it?" "I was scared you'd lock me out of everything." "I should have. I should have changed the locks the second I found those texts last year. But I gave you a chance. I believed you. And you spat in my face." Silence on the line. Then, "Can we please just talk about the house? If we sell it, we can both start fresh." "No." "Patricia, be reasonable." I said no. That house is mine. My grandmother's inheritance bought it. My name is on the deed. You never contributed a meaningful amount, and you're not getting a single brick of it. My lawyer says, your lawyer is going to tell you to settle. Because if we go to trial, you'll look even worse than you already do. Adultery, financial theft, lying to your children. What judge is going to side with you? More silence. Then quietly, "I loved you, Pat. I still do." "No," I said, my voice steady. "You loved what I did for you. You loved having someone to carry your weight while you chased success and 28-year-old secretaries. But me, the person I actually am? You never saw her at all." I hung up. Friday evening, Jamal came home with news. Dad's living in his car. I looked up from dinner prep. What? Brad kicked him out. Apparently, Ashley kept calling and showing up, causing scenes. Brad said he couldn't deal with the drama, so Dad's been sleeping in his car in the firm's parking garage. Part of me, the part that had loved him for 20 years, felt a twinge of sympathy. The rest of me remembered Ashley on my couch and felt nothing. That's unfortunate, I said neutrally. Jamal studied my face. You don't care, do you? Should I? He smiled, slowly, proudly. No, you shouldn't. Good. Now wash your hands. Dinner's ready. The gossip reached me through Mrs. Chen, my neighbor who worked in the same building as Michael's firm, 3 floors up in accounting. She appeared at my door on a Saturday morning with a Tupperware of dumplings and a gleeful expression. Patricia, she said, bustling inside, you won't believe what I heard. I made tea while she settled at the kitchen table, practically vibrating with news. That girl, Ashley, she's finished at Henderson and Associates. My eyebrows rose. Finished how? HR investigation. Turns out she wasn't just sleeping with your husband. She'd been involved with 2 other married attorneys. They have a no fraternization with married colleagues policy. She signed it. She violated it, repeatedly. I sipped my tea, letting the warmth spread through me. And? They fired her yesterday, escorted her out by security. Everyone saw. The whole office knows she was sleeping with Michael, knows he's married, was married, knows about the whole mess. His reputation is tanked too, but at least he's still employed. Barely. They moved him to a smaller office. No more corner view, no more prestigious cases. How did HR find out? I asked, though I had my suspicions. Anonymous tip, with evidence. Photos of her leaving hotels with various men, time-stamped, very thorough. One of the other wives, probably. Women talk. We protect each other. And Michael? I prompted. Mrs. Chen leaned forward conspiratorially. She dumped him. Spectacularly. Showed up at the firm Monday morning, screaming in the lobby. Called him every name in the book. Said he'd lied to her, ruined her career, and had nothing to offer anyway. Security had to remove her. I tried to feel something. Satisfaction, vindication, but mostly I just felt tired. Here's the best part, Mrs. Chen continued. Ashley tried to claim sexual harassment, said Michael had promised her promotions in exchange for, well, you know, but they have texts from her initiating, gifts she bought him. It backfired. Now she's blacklisted in Atlanta's legal community. Nobody will touch her. And Michael? Devastated. Apparently he thought she really loved him, thought they had a future. He's been moping around the office like a kicked puppy. People avoid him. He eats lunch alone at his desk, goes home, wherever home is now, right at 5. No more staying late, no more networking drinks. She patted my hand. You know what they say. Karma's not a bitch. She's a mirror. After Mrs. Chen left, I sat with that information. Part of me, a small, petty part, was glad. Glad they'd both faced consequences. Glad their little fantasy had imploded under the weight of reality. But mostly, I just didn't care. They deserved each other, and they'd gotten exactly what they deserved. Nothing. That evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Ashley. I know you probably hate me, but I need you to know. I didn't know he was still married. He told me you were divorced. I'm not a homewrecker. I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long moment. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I deleted it without responding. She didn't deserve my forgiveness, my understanding, or my time. She'd walked into my house, sat on my couch, drank from my wine glass, and called me the X, with a smirk on her face. Whether she'd known the full truth or not, she'd been comfortable disrespecting me. That was enough. I blocked the number and went back to my life. They could drown in their consequences together. I had more important things to do. The first thing I changed was the paint. That weekend, Jamal and Keisha helped me drag all the furniture to the center of the living room. We covered it with drop cloths. The same ones Michael had used 5 years ago when he'd insisted on painting the walls gentleman's gray. I hated this color, I admitted, staring at the dull walls. He said it was sophisticated. It's depressing, Keisha said bluntly, like living in a cloudy day. We drove to Home Depot and spent an hour in the paint section. I'd always loved warm colors, terracotta, burnt orange, deep golds that reminded me of Mama Ruth's kitchen in her old house, colors that felt like home. This one, I said, pointing to a shade called Sunset Clay, rich and warm, somewhere between coral and rust. It's perfect, Mom, Jamal said. We painted for 2 days straight, music playing, Mary J. Blige, Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, songs of resilience and rebirth. The kids painted with surprising skill, roller strokes smooth and even. I did the trim work, the careful edging that required patience. With each brushstroke, I felt something release. The gray disappeared under layers of warmth. Michael's presence faded. This was my house again, my sanctuary. Next came the garden. Mama Ruth had loved gardening. She'd grown up in rural Georgia, dirt under her fingernails from childhood. When I was little, she'd taught me the names of flowers: magnolias, black-eyed Susans, cosmos, zinnias. She'd had this saying, "A woman with a garden is never truly lost." I hadn't gardened in years. Michael had hired a service. Professional, efficient, soulless. They kept everything manicured but lifeless. Perfect squares of mulch, symmetrical hedges, no personality. I called Mrs. Chen. "You still have those gardening supplies you mentioned?" She appeared an hour later with bags of seeds, gardening gloves, and a trowel. "What are we planting?" "Everything," I said. "Flowers, herbs, vegetables, life." We worked in the autumn sun, turning soil that hadn't been touched in years. Mrs. Chen taught me about composting. I taught her about southern flowers. We planted cosmos, Mama Ruth's favorite, in bright pinks and whites, added basil and rosemary for the kitchen, tomato plants for next summer, zinnias for color. Keisha joined us after school, kneeling in the dirt in old jeans, her natural curls pulled back with a scarf. "This is nice," she said quietly. "Peaceful. Your great-grandmother would have loved you helping," I told her. "She always said working with the earth keeps you grounded." "I get it now," Keisha replied, patting soil around a seedling. "You're rebuilding. Not just the house, yourself." Smart girl. I'd raised a smart girl. The hardest part was removing Michael's belongings. He'd taken his clothes, his laptop, some books, but his presence lingered everywhere. His coffee mug collection in the kitchen, his golf clubs in the garage, his law school diploma on the wall, photos of us together, smiling lies captured in frames. One Saturday, I tackled it all. Jamal helped me take down the photos. We left the ones of just the kids, just me, family shots with Mama Ruth, but every picture with Michael came down. "What should we do with them?" Jamal asked, holding a wedding photo, young Patricia in white, young Michael beaming. "Storage," I said, "for you and Keisha, in case you ever want them, but I don't need to see them." We boxed everything. His golf clubs, his coffee mugs, 23 of them. Who needs 23 coffee mugs? His diploma, his books, his spare toiletries still in the bathroom. I even threw away his side of the bed, the pillows that smelled like his cologne, the weighted blanket he'd insisted on. It all went into boxes stacked in the garage, waiting for him to collect them, out of my space, out of my sight. The community rallied in ways that surprised me. My church friends, women I'd worshipped with for 15 years, organized a rotation. Someone brought dinner every other night. Sister Mary brought her famous fried chicken. Sister Joyce brought casseroles. Sister Ruth, named after my grandmother, coincidentally, brought enough greens to feed an army. "You're not alone in this," Sister Mary said, hugging me tight after dropping off food. "That man's a fool, and we're here for you." The nurses from work sent a care package: wine, chocolate, bath bombs, and a card signed by the entire shift. "To our strongest colleague," it read, You've carried us through tough times. Let us carry you." Even people I barely knew reached out. The mail carrier who delivered to my house for 10 years left a note. "Hang in there, Patricia. You deserve better." My boss pulled me aside at work. "Take whatever time you need, family leave, personal days, whatever." "I'm okay," I insisted. "I'd rather work. Staying busy helps." She studied me carefully. "You're one of the strongest women I know. But even the strong need to rest sometimes." I thought about that conversation while planting more flowers, about strength and rest, about carrying everyone and never being carried. For 20 years, I'd been strong for Michael, for the kids, for my patients, for everyone. Maybe it was time to be strong for myself, to let myself be carried, just a little. 2 months after Michael left, I stood in my newly painted living room, sipping coffee from a mug I'd bought just for me, ceramic with "Nevertheless, she persisted" printed on the side. The walls glowed warm in the morning light. Through the window, I could see my garden beginning to sprout, tiny green shoots pushing through soil. Keisha's new curtains, bright turquoise, her choice, framed the windows. Jamal's artwork from high school hung where Michael's law diploma used to be. Family photos with Mama Ruth, with my parents, with my sisters covered the walls. No more gray, no more ghosts. Just me and my children and this house we'd reclaimed together. It felt like home again, finally. Michael's lawyer, Stephen Hargrove, tried every trick in the book. The deposition was scheduled for late October at Denise's firm. Michael sat across from me, looking haggard. He'd lost weight, his suits hanging loose, dark circles under his eyes. Part of me felt that sympathetic twinge again. Then I remembered Ashley calling me the X, and the sympathy evaporated. "Let's begin," Denise said crisply. "Mr. Johnson, you're claiming entitlement to 50% of the marital home located at 1547 Oakwood Drive. Is that correct?" Michael glanced at Hargrove, who nodded. "Yes." "On what grounds?" "I lived there for 20 years. Contributed to household expenses. It's the marital residence." Denise slid a document across the table. "This is the property deed. Whose name appears on it?" "Patricia's." "Only Patricia's?" "Yes, but—" "And when was this property purchased?" "August 1997. "Before or after your marriage?" Michael hesitated. "After. But the same month." "I see. And where did the down payment come from?" "Patricia's inheritance from her grandmother." "And did you contribute financially to that down payment?" "No, but—" "And whose money paid the mortgage while you attended law school from 1997 to 2001? Hargrove interjected. "My client contributed through household labor and emotional support." Denise raised an eyebrow. "Emotional support is not a financial contribution, counselor. Ms. Johnson worked full-time as a nurse, while your client was a student. She paid 100% of the mortgage during those years. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson?" "She worked, yes, but I—" "Yes or no, please." "Yes," he admitted quietly. "And after you passed the bar and gained employment, what percentage of the mortgage did you pay?" "I don't know exactly." Denise slid another document across. "These are the bank records for the joint account used to pay the mortgage. Your direct deposits were earmarked for other expenses. Your car payment, your student loans, your discretionary spending. Ms. Johnson's direct deposits covered the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and children's expenses. For 15 years. Hargrove shifted uncomfortably. Michael stared at the table. "Let's talk about the $30,000 withdrawn from the joint account on September 12th, Denise continued. "Where is that money now? In a separate account, which Ms. Johnson had no knowledge of. I was planning to tell her—" "When? Before or after you moved your mistress into her home?" "Objection," Hargrove said weakly. "Inflammatory." "Sustained," the court reporter said automatically, though we all knew it didn't matter. This was a deposition, not a trial. Denise was building a record. "Let's discuss the affair," Denise said, flipping pages. You admitted to an affair with Ashley Martin, age 28, your former secretary. How long did this affair last? Michael's jaw clenched. About 18 months. And during this time, did you spend marital funds on Ms. Martin? Some dinners, gifts. It wasn't... How much, approximately? Hargrove leaned over, whispering. Michael shook his head. I don't know. Let me help you. Denise slid over highlighted credit card statements. Hotels, $8,450, jewelry, $3,200, restaurants, $1,690, lingerie, $540, total, $1,980. Does that sound accurate? Michael's face went red. I suppose. And Ms. Johnson was unaware of these expenditures? Yes. Because you hid them? I didn't want to hurt her. Denise leaned back, her expression ice cold. Mr. Johnson, let me be clear. You have no legal claim to the house at 1547 Oakwood Drive. It was purchased with Ms. Johnson's separate property. The deed is solely in her name. She paid the vast majority of expenses. You committed adultery, wasted marital assets on your mistress, and attempted to abscond with $30,000. If we proceed to trial, you will lose. Badly. Hargrove cleared his throat. Let's take a break. They huddled in the corner. I heard whispers. Not winnable. Settle. Cut your losses. When they returned, Hargrove's expression was resigned. My client is prepared to discuss settlement terms. Denise smiled. Excellent. Here are Ms. Johnson's terms. 3 weeks later, we sat in mediation. A neutral conference room, beige walls, terrible coffee. Michael looked defeated. Hargrove looked ready for it to be over. Denise looked triumphant. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Marianne Foster, reviewed the evidence. The deed, the bank records, Mama Ruth's letter explaining the inheritance, the credit card statements showing Michael's affair expenses, the $30,000 withdrawn from their joint account. She looked at Michael over her reading glasses. Mr. Johnson, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen a lot of entitled spouses try to claim property that isn't theirs. This is not a close case. Your Honor, Hargrove started. She held up a hand. The house belongs to Ms. Johnson. Separate property, clearly documented. You're not entitled to a penny of it. As for the marital assets, the 401k, the joint savings, those will be split, but you'll be returning that $30,000, all of it, and paying Ms. Johnson's legal fees. Do you understand? Michael nodded, his eyes glistening. Good. Sign the settlement. He signed. It was over. The final mediation session took place in December, 3 months after Ashley had smirked on my couch. Christmas lights twinkled outside the conference room windows. Inside, the atmosphere was glacial. Michael sat with Hargrove, both looking like men who'd lost a war. Denise sat beside me, a stack of documents in front of her, radiating confidence. Judge Foster reviewed the final settlement terms. Primary custody of Keisha Johnson to Ms. Johnson, with reasonable visitation for Mr. Johnson. Mr. Jamal Johnson is 18 and therefore not subject to custody arrangements. Child support of $1,800 per month for Keisha until she turns 18 or graduates high school, whichever is later. Mr. Johnson retains his 401k minus 20%, which goes to Ms. Johnson for her separate retirement. All marital debt to be split equally. The house at 1547 Oakwood Drive remains solely in Ms. Johnson's name, as it has always been. She looked up. Mr. Johnson, do you understand these terms? Yes, Your Honor, Michael said, his voice barely above a whisper. And Miss Johnson? Yes, Your Honor, I accept. Good. However, there's one more matter. Judge Foster shuffled papers. Mr. Hargrove, your client removed $30,000 from the joint marital account without Ms. Johnson's knowledge, correct? Yes, but... And he spent approximately $19,000 on an extramarital affair, correct? The affair is not relevant to... It's relevant to character, counselor. It shows a pattern of deception and financial mismanagement. Mr. Johnson will return the $30,000 to Ms. Johnson immediately. He will also reimburse her the $19,000 spent on his affair. And he will pay Ms. Johnson's legal fees, which I understand total approximately $15,000. Hargrove went pale. Your Honor, that's $64,000. My client doesn't have... Then he can set up a payment plan. He's an attorney earning a substantial salary. He'll manage, unless he'd prefer I hold him in contempt. No, Your Honor. Michael's head dropped into his hands. I watched dispassionately. Once I would have felt sorry for him. Once I would have wanted to comfort him. Not anymore. There's also the matter of the prenuptial agreement, Denise interjected smoothly. Hargrove blinked. What prenup? There's no prenup in the file. Denise slid a document across the table. Signed August 1997, 1 week before the wedding. Both parties agreed that any property brought into the marriage, including property purchased with inherited funds, would remain separate property. It specifically mentions Ms. Brewer's Johnson's inheritance from her grandmother and states that any real estate purchased with those funds would be her sole property. I'd forgotten about that prenup. Michael had insisted on it, actually, said he wanted to protect his future earnings. I'd agreed, not caring about money. But Mama Ruth had been there, and she'd insisted on the reciprocal clause about my inheritance. Always have your own, she'd whispered. She'd known. Even then, she'd known. Michael looked at the prenup, his face ashen. I forgot about this. Convenient, Denise said dryly. Judge Foster reviewed it carefully. This is ironclad. Mr. Johnson, you signed this willingly? Yes. Then there's nothing more to discuss. The house is Ms. Johnson's. Period. End of story. Hargrove leaned over to Michael, whispering urgently. I caught fragments. No case? Need to accept? Dragging this out will only cost more. Michael sat up, wiping his eyes. He looked across the table at me. Really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in years. Pat, he said softly. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I destroyed everything we built, but I need you to know I did love you. I do love you. I got lost. I met his eyes, saw the man I'd married somewhere in there, buried under layers of selfishness and regret. But I also saw the man who'd brought his girlfriend into my home, who'd stolen from our joint account, who'd lied to me, to our children, to everyone. Michael, I said calmly, you didn't love me. You loved what I did for you. There's a difference. And you didn't get lost. You chose. Every step, every lie, every hotel room. Those were choices. I made mistakes. No, mistakes are accidental. You made decisions. You decided your ego was more important than your family. You decided Ashley was worth destroying 20 years of marriage. You decided to lie, cheat, and steal. Those were all conscious decisions. His face crumpled. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to sign the papers and let me move on with my life. Judge Foster pushed the settlement agreement toward him. Mr. Johnson, sign. He picked up the pen. His hand shook. For a moment, I thought he might refuse, might drag this out further, might fight just to fight. Then he signed, slowly, each letter deliberate. Michael R. Johnson scrawled across the bottom of the page, done. Denise gathered the documents efficiently. Your Honor, thank you for your time and consideration. Ms. Johnson, Judge Foster said, looking at me directly, I've been on the bench for 30 years. I've seen a lot of women in your position, women who sacrificed everything for men who gave nothing back. Most of them walk away with half of what they deserve. But you protected yourself. Your grandmother taught you well. She did, Your Honor. Good. Don't forget that lesson. And don't let any man make you feel like you owe him anything you don't. I won't. Outside the building, December wind whipped around us. Denise pulled me into a hug. You did it, girl. You won. We won, I corrected. No. She pulled back, gripping my shoulders. You won this 23 years ago when you kept that deed in your name. I just helped you prove it." I looked up at the gray sky, thought about Mama Ruth, and smiled. "Always have your own," I whispered. Somewhere, I knew she was smiling too. The divorce was finalized on January 15th. 23 years and 5 months after I said, "I do," I walked out of the courthouse a free woman. The Georgia winter air felt crisp and clean, like the world had been washed new. Denise walked beside me carrying a briefcase full of signed documents. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. "Lighter." "Good answer." She squeezed my shoulder. "Go home, celebrate. You earned this." That evening, I didn't throw a party, didn't pop champagne or make grand declarations. Instead, I made Mama Ruth's famous pot roast, the one that took all day, low and slow, filling the house with the smell of comfort and love. Jamal came home from his shift at the bookstore. Keisha finished her homework. We sat at the kitchen table, just the three of us, and ate together. Really together, without the tension that had haunted our meals for years. "To Mom," Jamal said, raising his water glass, "the strongest woman we know." "To Mom," Keisha echoed, "and to new beginnings." We clinked glasses. I looked at my children, these beautiful humans I'd created and raised, and felt something settle in my chest. Pride, peace, purpose. "I have news," Jamal announced, grinning. "I got into Morehouse." I screamed, actually screamed. Keisha jumped up, hugging her brother. I joined them, the three of us in a tangle of arms and joy. "Baby, I'm so proud of you." Tears streamed down my face. "When did you find out?" "Letter came today. Full academic scholarship plus financial aid. I can actually afford it, Mom. Because of you, you helped me with every essay, every application. You believed in me when Dad was too busy with his drama to care." "He cares," I said gently. "Even now trying to protect their relationship with their father. He's just lost." "No, Mom." Jamal's voice was firm. "Don't make excuses for him anymore. You spent 20 years doing that. He made his choices. Now we're making ours. And I choose to be nothing like him." Keisha nodded. "Me too. I'm never going to let anyone make me feel small. Not after watching what he did to you." My babies. My strong, wise babies. The doorbell rang. Mrs. Chen stood on the porch with a covered dish and a knowing smile. "I heard," she said simply. "Divorce finalized?" "This morning." "Good. Your grandmother would be proud, Patricia. So proud." We ate dumplings and pot roast together, an unlikely fusion that somehow worked perfectly. Mrs. Keisha Chen told stories about her own divorce 30 years ago in Taiwan, before she'd immigrated to America. "I had nothing," she said. "No house, no money, but I had myself. I rebuilt from dirt. You? You never lost yourself. You protected yourself. That's wisdom." The weekend brought more visitors. Sister Mary from church with her famous peach cobbler, Sister Joyce with a prayer shawl she'd crocheted, deep purple and gold, colors of royalty, Sister Ruth with words of encouragement and a card signed by the entire congregation. "We're having a gathering," Sister Mary announced. "Next Saturday, my house, women only, we're celebrating you." "That's not necessary." "Hush. You celebrated us through our divorces, our losses, our struggles. Now we celebrate you." Saturday arrived. Sister Mary's living room was packed with women I'd known for years. Nurses from the hospital, church sisters, neighbors. Even Denise came, bearing wine and wisdom. Each woman shared her story, divorces, betrayals, losses, but also survival, strength, rebuilding. We laughed until we cried until we laughed, held each other up the way women do when the world tries to tear us down. "To Patricia," Denise said, raising her glass, "who reminded us all that we don't need men to complete us. We just need ourselves. And our sisters," Sister Joyce added. "And our grandmother's wisdom," Mrs. Chen said. "And our faith," Sister Mary concluded. "And our deeds," I said, making everyone laugh. "Let's not forget our deeds." We toasted. To survival, to strength, to sisterhood, to the women who came before us and the women who'd come after, to ownership of our homes, our lives, our destinies. That night, driving home with Jamal and Keisha beside me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, whole. Not because I'd defeated Michael, not because I'd won the house, but because I'd reclaimed myself. Patricia Marie Johnson, nurse, mother, homeowner, survivor. And that was enough. 1 year later, I stood in my bathroom applying lipstick, a bold red called Unapologetic, and barely recognized the woman in the mirror. She looked like me. Same dark skin, same natural hair, now in goddess locks that fell to my shoulders, same deep brown eyes. But something fundamental had changed. She stood taller, smiled wider, radiated confidence that came from within, not from anyone else's validation. I liked her. The promotion had come in August, Director of Nursing for the entire cardiac unit at Grady Memorial, a title I'd been passed over for 3 times in the past decade, always given to someone less qualified but more suitable, a polite word for white. But my new supervisor, Dr. Aisha Williams, a black woman who'd fought her own battles, saw my worth. "Patricia, you've been holding this unit together for years," she'd said during my review. "Everyone knows it, but nobody acknowledged it. That ends now. The job is yours if you want it." I'd wanted it, accepted it, thrived in it. The pay increase meant financial security, meant Jamal's college expenses felt manageable, meant Keisha could attend the private art program she'd been dreaming about, meant I could finally breathe without calculating every dollar. More than that, it meant recognition, validation that I'd earned through sweat and skill, not by shrinking myself to fit someone else's comfort. The house had transformed completely. Every room reflected me now. The living room in warm sunset tones, the kitchen with open shelving displaying Mama Ruth's vintage dishes, the bedroom repainted in soft sage, with new linens I'd chosen, nobody else's opinion required. I'd knocked out a wall between the dining room and kitchen, creating an open flow, installed new hardwood floors, updated the bathrooms with subway tile and rainfall shower heads. This house had always been mine legally. Now it was mine spiritually. The garden bloomed like a miracle. Mama Ruth's magnolias had grown tall, white blossoms perfuming the air each spring. The vegetables I'd planted produced abundant harvests. Tomatoes, zucchini, herbs that I used in cooking. The cosmos swayed in the breeze. Pink and white dancers celebrating life. Mrs. Chen and I had become true friends. We gardened together every Saturday morning, sharing coffee and stories. She taught me about feng shui. I taught her about Southern cooking. Our friendship transcended age, culture, and language. It was pure. Jamal thrived at Morehouse. He called every Sunday full of stories about his classes, his friends, his dreams of law school. But corporate law, he insisted, not family law. "I've seen enough divorce drama to last a lifetime," he joked. He'd even started dating, a smart young woman named Amara who video called me to introduce herself. Respectful, kind, everything I'd want from my son. Keisha had blossomed. Therapy helped her process the betrayal, the trauma of watching her family implode. Her grades soared. Straight A's this year. She joined the art club, discovered a talent for painting. Her room was filled with canvases depicting strong women. Me, Mama Ruth, historical figures like Harriet Tubman and Maya Angelou. "You're my inspiration," she told me one evening while painting. "You showed me that women don't need men to be complete. We just need ourselves." Wisdom at 17. The lesson had cost me 20 years, but my daughter learned it early. That alone made everything worthwhile. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious, I wasn't ready for serious. But I'd joined a book club where I met Marcus, a high school English teacher with kind eyes and no ex-wife baggage. We'd gone to dinner 3 times, movies twice. He was patient, respectful, didn't push. "I'm not trying to replace anyone," he'd said on our first date. "I just want to get to know you." Novel concept. A man who wanted to know me, not use me. I wasn't rushing anything. Maybe Marcus would become something. Maybe he wouldn't. Either way, I'd be fine. Because I'd learned the most important lesson. I didn't need a man to complete me. I was already whole. My reflection stared back at me, this woman who'd survived betrayal and emerged stronger. I thought about the girl I'd been at 22, so eager to prove love could conquer all, so willing to sacrifice herself for someone else's dreams. I wished I could tell her, love yourself first, protect yourself always, never shrink to make someone else comfortable. Your grandmother's wisdom is gold. Listen to it. But she wouldn't have understood. Some lessons only come through fire. And I'd walked through the flames and found myself on the other side. The doorbell rang. Keisha was having friends over for movie night. Jamal was home for winter break. My house, would be filled with laughter and life. This was victory, not the divorce decree, not the deed in my name, but this. Peace, purpose, and presence in my own life. I was finally home. Spring arrived with its usual Georgia drama, sudden and glorious. I sat in my garden on a Sunday morning, coffee in hand, watching bees work the magnolia blossoms. The same flowers Mama Ruth had loved, the same wisdom she'd passed down. Always have your own. 3 words, 23 years, one powerful lesson. If I could speak to my younger self, that eager 22-year-old nursing student who fell for a charming white guy, what would I say? First, listen to Mama Ruth. She's lived 8 decades. She's survived sharecropping, Jim Crow, poverty, loss. When she tells you to keep that deed in your name only, she's not being paranoid. She's being wise. Generations of Black women learn this lesson the hard way. She's trying to save you from learning it too. Second, your worth isn't determined by who loves you. For 20 years, you'll measure yourself by Michael's attention, his approval, his presence. You'll shrink yourself to fit his world. You'll straighten your hair, moderate your voice, swallow your anger. You'll perform non-threatening Black woman until you forget who you actually are. Stop. You are enough exactly as you are. Natural hair, full voice, righteous anger, and all. Third, sacrifice shouldn't be one-sided. You'll work double shifts so he can study. You'll raise his children while he builds his career. You'll defer every dream so he can chase his. And you'll tell yourself that's what love looks like. It's not. Love is reciprocal. Partnership means both people sacrifice. If you're always the one giving, you're not in a partnership. You're being used. Fourth, when people show you who they are, believe them. That first lipstick stain in February 2009, that's your answer. Not his tears, not his promises, the stain, the betrayal, the choice he made. People who cheat once will cheat again. People who lie once will lie again. Your forgiveness enabled him. Don't enable anyone's worst behavior, no matter how much you've invested. Fifth, the deed matters. Not just the house deed, though that literal deed saved you, but the metaphorical deed to your own life. Keep ownership of yourself, your bank account, your credit, your independence. Never give anyone complete control over your survival. That's not cynicism, that's wisdom. Being a Black woman married to a white man added layers I didn't anticipate. The subtle ways I minimized myself to make him comfortable, the racist comments from his family I ignored, the microaggressions I absorbed, the way I had to be perfect, twice as good for half the recognition. And when he cheated, when he brought Ashley into my home, the racial dynamic stung even deeper. He'd replace me with a white woman. Was I not respectable enough? Not professional enough? Not white enough? I tormented myself with those questions. But here's the truth I finally understood. It wasn't about race. It was about character. Michael's character was flawed. He would have cheated on anyone, Black, white, Asian, Latina, because the problem wasn't me. It was him. Racism exists. Colorism exists. I faced both in that marriage. But Michael's infidelity, that was his brokenness, not my inadequacy. Understanding that freed me. Now, I want to speak to you. Yes, you, watching this story unfold. Maybe you're facing betrayal right now. Maybe your spouse is gaslighting you, telling you you're overreacting. Maybe you've sacrificed everything and wonder why it's not enough. Listen to me. Know your worth. You are not defined by who stays or who leaves. You are not defined by who chooses you or who rejects you. You are defined by who you are when you're alone with yourself. Protect yourself. Financially, emotionally, legally. Keep your own bank account. Keep property in your own name when possible. Keep your independence. That's not distrust, that's wisdom. Build your sisterhood. Women who've survived similar battles. Women who understand. Women who won't judge you for leaving or staying. Women who'll remind you of your strength when you forget. Honor the women who came before you. Your grandmothers, your mothers, your aunties. They survived worse with less. They left you blueprints. Follow them. And finally, love shouldn't cost your dignity. If someone requires you to shrink, to hide, to diminish yourself to make them comfortable, that's not love. That's control. Walk away. I'm Patricia Marie Johnson. I'm 47 years old. I own my home outright. I raised 2 incredible children. I have a career I'm proud of. I have friends who love me. I have a garden that blooms. And I have myself. That's the greatest victory of all. So tell me, which city are you watching from? Drop a comment below. And if this story resonated with you, if you support women protecting themselves and knowing their worth, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about strength, survival, and justice. Because we're all Patricia. We've all faced betrayal, dismissal, invisibility. But we're also all survivors, and we all deserve to own the deed to our own lives. Remember, love shouldn't cost your dignity, ever.